Welcome to It's Personal Finance Canada. I'm Christine Conway.
And I'm Cameron Conway.
And this podcast is a very personal look at personal finance in Canada. Welcome to It's Personal Finance Canada. I'm Christine Conway here with Cameron Conway. And if you're in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, or the Yukon, feel free to find us at braunfinancial.com. So last week, we talked about the first 60-day RRSP contributions. And I love this subject. I hope you got a bit excited about it too. Well, not excited, but at least took some practical action and talked to a financial planner or did some planning work on your own to benefit yourself as you get ready for that last looks at last year.
Yeah, so just a quick reminder, you've got until March 3rd to do any kind of RRSP top-up to count against your 2024 taxes. And then after that, all your RRSPs can just keep going to your 2025 until you hit your cap again.
So this week, we thought it would be helpful to continue this conversation. So you've put your money into your RRSP. It's invested. It's growing on your behalf. You've bought into the fact that this is going to be beneficial. It's going to help you out longer term. What does this all mean? Does it mean that the money is trapped away now forever until some distant point in time in the future? When can you actually access this plan? Do you have to wait until you stop working to get access to it? What is an RRSP anyways, right? Like, these are some of the basics that we're going to go over today, but I think that they're important points that we tend to forget or we tend to gloss over. So today is not going to be an exhaustive look, but we are going to be hitting on some of the key points of RRSPs, and we're just going to continue to talk about it from a withdrawal perspective.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about, I'm sure everyone here has heard a lot about it's important to have an RRSP, but not a lot of people understand it. And they know all about putting money into it, but not a lot about getting that money back out of it afterwards.
Well, and I will take this one to my grave. I say this all the time. Decumulation planning is the most important part of your retirement plan. It is much, much, much more difficult than accumulation. Anyone can buy an index fund, call that accumulation, and do well enough to kind of make it pass, get a passing grade on that. But the real skill and the real expertise comes in the decumulation planning side of it. And again, even though we're not going to get in huge detail into that today, I want to go over some of the basics of the RRSP. Now, like always, nothing that we say on this show is ever meant to be personal financial advice. This is, of course, we're trying to educate you. We're trying to make you laugh a little bit as we do it. This is for entertainment value primarily only. You can't take us all that seriously, can you? I mean, come on, people that know us anyways. But this is helpful to you.
Yeah, and so remember, everything is unique to yourself. We're just trying to give you the broad strokes of how some of these things work, but to kind of figure out the nuts and bolts, that's where you'll do some work. You can find a certified financial planner. But yeah, this is the overview of how the system works, how the program works, and what you can do with it. But yeah, when it comes to the decumulation, this is a person by person strategy.
And you know what? I think that we're not just going to talk about the normal, I've retired, I'm age 65. I think we want to talk about all of it. What happens if you want to do a withdrawal and you're still at working age? What happens if you want to take a withdrawal to pay off some debt? What happens if you want to take a withdrawal right before you retire? And of course, what happens if you want to take a withdrawal during your retirement?
Or you want to make a withdrawal to go out and buy a whole bunch of things before tariffs kick in.
You know what? We could do a lightning round at the end where you could ask me if it's a good idea or not to take it out of your RRSP. Spoiler alert, the answer is no. All right, let's get into it. And one more caveat, because man, oh man, this is going to be a more technical one. So it's caveats out the window here, out the window, down the hall, into the other room. This is just for regular run-of-the-mill RRSPs. We are not talking locked-ins. We are not talking specialty programs like the homebuyer plan. We're not talking about spousals unless we specifically mention them either. So just think plain, boring, average RRSPs.
So let's just jump right into it. And what are some of the more important things that people should know when they think about taking money out of the RRSP?
Okay, important factors. So first of all, I want to know your age. I want to know your income. I want to know if you're working or if you're not working. And I want to know if you are collecting any type of income tested benefits. And of course, if you have a spouse or a common law partner and a spousal RRSP, if there has been a contribution into your plan in the last 3 years, that's kind of where we would start. So why don't we begin with kind of the most common situation? So let's talk about the person that is retiring at normal retirement age. So let's say that's age 65, and they have this hopefully ginormous pot of RSP money because they've saved so well. They've put it in their funds. It's compounded. It's grown. It's tax deferred, which makes the growth happen faster. This is great. What do they do now? So they are expecting this to produce some type of stream of income for them, but what can they expect? What will it look like? And how does it all work? When do they start receiving the money? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they think about taking money out of their RRSP when something kind of comes up, because for a lot of people, that is their only real savings. So when the time comes to pull money out of nowhere, if you don't have a HELOC or something else, a lot of people might just defer to their RRSP to do so.
Yeah, and they will go to the RRSP in its current form, maybe if they're looking for a withdrawal during their working years, or if they're looking for a withdrawal closer to retirement, which are the two other areas that we'll talk about in just a minute. When they're actually at normal retirement age, they're going to do something to that RRSP. They're going to convert it over into another vehicle. And an RRSP typically becomes one of two things. It becomes something called an annuity, or something called a RIF. And the annuity, if you kind of look at, okay, well, what is an annuity? That's a word I've never heard before. Think of it as being the same as a defined benefit pension plan. So if someone has a pension plan from the government or a pension plan from a public corporation that pays them a certain amount every month for the rest of their life, for as long as they shall live or as long as they and their spouse shall live, that's the same thing. So you can actually use the money in your RRSP to create this same type of income stream for yourself. You can even index it if you like. That feature costs a little bit extra money, but you can have a portion of it tied to inflation so that it'll go up if it hits a specific metric that's built into the contract.
Well, I guess one of the ways you can look at kind of having the annuity is it's just that kind of one payment as long as you're alive. But with all annuities, depending how it's set up, that once you pass, even though there could technically be some money left on the book, that money will just zero out.
That is actually the biggest detractor for people doing this. A lot of people have beneficiaries, their kids, nieces, nephews, grandkids, people they want to pass their money on to. And in that instance that you just described, you're right. There is a guarantee period, but if you've passed that guarantee period, then yes, there could be a scenario where in theory there was money still there, but it's no longer, the house wins, basically, right? It goes to the insurance company that issued it. Now, why would someone take a plan like this? They would take it for that guarantee, because even though you could lose on that end, where maybe your beneficiary may not get everything that was originally in that account, what may also happen is, let's say that account normally would have gone to zero because you've lived a very, very, very long time, or your spouse has lived a very, very, very long time. And now this is just keeps ticking on. It keeps making payments long past the period of time where a normal account would have zeroed out and stopped paying you. So that's kind of the biggest pro of purchasing an annuity. It's basically a sure thing. But there is one other reason that people don't automatically defer to these, and that is flexibility. Once you've done this, you are locked in. And on our side of it, when we're quoting these things for people, you literally have to lock in same day, because quotes change daily, and it is to the penny. They will not give you $1 more, $1 less than what you've contracted for. And these contracts are forever. So they are locked in and they are permanent. So what does that mean to you? That means if down the road, oh, something's come up with strata, or my car just broke down, I have no other funds, I need some cash. You cannot go to this annuity to get some capital out because it is no longer accessible to you. Think about it as the contract is property of, it's kind of been, it belongs to that institution now who've taken the money. They've done what they've done. They've invested a portion of it and they're guaranteeing these payments to you for life. And like I said, it's now a roll of the dice on your longevity. And if there's a second party named in the contract, like your spouse or common law partner, on theirs as well.
Yeah, with annuities, there can be pros and cons. There could be risks, like you could have a risk where you could have a large nest egg and pass early and then all of a sudden it goes poof. Or you could have the other way where you could have a small nest egg and you just live to be 120 and it just keeps on paying forever. But that is the risk you take. So it's a lot of gambling, which is why a lot of people tend to go the RRSP route instead, so they can kind of have more control of what happens to that withdrawal schedule.
Well, yeah, and that's why the insurance companies will put the guarantee periods on the annuities, right, to prevent the lawsuits that'll happen if someone dies within a few years of taking this contract out because, well, the house does want to win. They don't want to win with such a windfall that people start asking questions and taking notice. So it's more, like I said, it's a tool. It's actuarially priced. So they have very, very smart people doing very, very detailed pricing calculations on the regular, and they also decide where they want to flow the money based on pricing too. So that's kind of a little insight on how they work a bit there. But you're right, Cam. Let's move on to the other side of it. So let's say you want to riff. What is a riff? A riff essentially is you agreeing to a variable cash flow. So if we said your annuity is fixed, it's guaranteed, this one is not. This absolutely can go to zero. You can deplete it during your lifetime. But that flexibility piece that you gave up when you purchased the annuity, you retain when you keep a RRSP. And again, that's a huge reason that some people will prefer these vehicles. And what that means is if I suddenly, I'm in that same scenario where my car broke down, my strata fees, they're doing a special levy, strata's knocking on the door, whatever that expense may be, you can now access your RRSP and take a withdrawal. But there's a whole bunch of caveats and a whole bunch of reasons why you may or may not want to look to your RRSP to do that, but it is a possibility. So we'll get into some of those details in a minute, but it is flexible from that point of view.
Yeah, it's because of that flexibility. I think even abroad, like 99% of our clients go the riffing route, just so they can maintain that control. They can decide what their withholding tax, what their monthly payments are going to be, as long as they hit that minimum threshold set by CRA. But they can kind of pick and choose. If it's a good year, take a little bit more. If it's a leaner year, don't take so much. You can kind of keep your baseline leveled off. So yeah, it's a lot more interesting to manage. And yeah, you don't have that looming threat of if a person passes early, it's not just going to disappear overnight.
Right. So the beneficiary piece is really important. I will also say part of that for us is, we have a lot of clients that have done really well over the years. So part of that is if people are not worried about running out of money, then of course a RRSP with a variable payment would be more beneficial to them than a guaranteed stream of income for the rest of their life, right? Like different appeal. Also, the RRSP gives you the ability to continue to make money. And this is a little game that we get to play. So when you start taking money out of your RRSP, you are locking in to the minimum withdrawal schedule that the CRA sets out for every single person. And it's the same for everyone. It's based on age. And as a quick little tip, if your spouse is younger than you, number one, good job. But number two, the benefit of that is that you can actually base your RRSP on their age and start that schedule at the lower person's age. And what that means is you are then required to take out less. You can always take out more, so you can always take out as much as you want. You can take out all of it if you want, but it's taxable, of course.
Yeah, so they kind of set in these minimum thresholds to make sure you are going through your RRSP throughout retirement so they get their tax income. But yeah, as long as you're hitting your minimum, they are happy. And if you need to take out more, you just take out more. You have the option there.
Yeah, so if we want to talk about the actual minimum withdrawal schedule, let's say you're 65. So 4% at age 65 is the percentage amount of the total dollar amount in your RIF on December 31st. So what they do to make it fair and equal for everyone is on the last calendar day of the year, everybody who has a RIF, that RIF gets valued. And they will apply the age factor to the dollar balance in the RIF and come up with your payment. Now, there's a couple other decision points that you're going to have to make along the way. Do you want to have withholding tax on that, which is just having tax remitted to the CRA on your behalf? Do you want to not, because you don't always have to on the minimum? If you take more than the minimum, you automatically do have to on that amount above the minimum, though. But what does this look like at different ages? So let's say you're 80. You have to take 6.82%. And at 90, it's 11.92. And if you make it all the way to 94, it's a flat 20%. And that 20% continues on until the whole thing depletes. And I wanted to put this one in here too, because I thought it was a bit interesting. For people that retire early at 55, you only need to withdraw 2.86% as the required minimum from your RIF if you have RIF. But not everyone of that age will decide that it's beneficial to them to RIF, because not everybody wants to be in the position where they have to take a withdrawal every single year.
Yeah, those minimum withdrawals you kind of keep an eye on, but you don't have to do the math yourself. They'll show up in your statement, or you go through your online access to your accounts through different banks or insurance carriers. It'll tell you pretty flat out what you are supposed to be taking out, and then you just figure out what your withholding tax is going to be that year, and it's kind of pretty cut and dry. So you don't have to get your big calculator out to figure out how much do I need to pull out so CRA doesn't get upset. You'll see your floor, and then you think to yourself, do I want more? Is this good enough? And just kind of go from there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's always on your statement, right? And I mean, that's a good encouragement for people to actually, if this is
Read
the first time. I wasn't going to say it. Well, yes, I was. You said it a lot more clearly than I would have. I would have gently suggested that perhaps it would be in their best interest
to open the letters they get from the carriers.
And not leave them on, that corner on your table where things go to die, where there's like a stack like this, and there's bills, and there's statements, and there's your RSPs in there somewhere. Go through that soon, because you're going to have to find all the tax slips that are going to start being generated very soon. But yes, it is always beneficial to open your mail and read your mail. I laugh tongue in cheek, because every single year in our office, we have some older clients, and they're so sweet. I love them so much. But they will come in with a stack of stuff and just go, hey, what is this? Can you talk me through this? And of course, we're incredibly happy to do so. So if you ever do get something in the mail and you're with our firm, Braun Financial, and you're like, what is this? I don't know. We'll talk you through it. We'll show you how to read it. And once you've kind of walked through it the first few times, it becomes so much easier to get to the place where you're just like, oh, yep, know what that is, in the shredder if you don't need it. And for those kind of in-between statements, I always think it's so funny. When you get your year-end statement, that really is the only one that you ever really need. Anything that occurs partially through the year, it's going to be summarized on your year-end statement anyways. And a lot of carriers, sorry, I'm kind of on a rant now. A lot of carriers will also give you an update in the mail for every single transaction that you do. Again, huge redundancy. It'll show up on your statement. Don't bog yourself down. Those guys you can stick straight in the shredder, right? So I guess maybe I am telling people not to open all of their mail. See what it is, then shred it, do what you got to do with it. But we digress. Cam, you had a real question for me.
Well, I had a real question that I just stopped to realize that you're just asking everyone to open the mail to make sure the line went up.
Yeah. You know what? This is our report card season too. How did we do as your financial planning firm, or how did the institution that you've been working with do, right? Like, how did they navigate what has been an absolutely wild past couple of years, and what is going to continue to be an absolutely wild next couple of years? So yeah, it's how did you do? How did your investment do? But also, how have your professionals done at navigating what is not ordinary circumstance anymore?
Yeah, and if things didn't go well, the person will yell at us, and then we'll yell at our reps at our carriers, and then they'll yell at their managers, and the manager will yell at their supervisor. It just goes up the chain.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think that's why we're always looking to partner with carriers and companies that do a really, really good job of diversifying sources and with strategies that we understand and that we can clearly explain to you, to our clients, so that it's not just what happened, right? So you clearly understand what you've been invested in, why we've put you there. And it's not a surprise if XYZ goes up or XYZ goes down, because things do move with the markets. We're not going to be on the straight line up 100% of the time, but along with the ebbs and flows, there will be some strategy. And I think that's part of the value of professional advice.
Okay, so let's kind of change gears a little bit. Well, we talked a lot about getting money out of your RRSP once it has turned into a RIF, and this is all the big retirement talk, but what does it look like when you want to take money out of your RRSP while it is still in RRSP and you are still just in regular working mode?
Yes. So like you said, in this scenario, the RSP retains its current form, right? It's not morphing into a different product or into something else. And this is where we want to ask you those questions that we went through at the very, very, very beginning of the show, where your age, your income, if you're working or if you're not working, if you collected any types of income tested benefits, or if you have a spousal account and a spousal common law partner contributed into your plan or vice versa in the last 3 years, those questions are going to be so material. So let's talk through them a little bit right now. Age. How old are you, right? Like, what point in period of time are you making this withdrawal? So we are, for the purpose of this conversation, assuming that you're any age truly before normal retirement age. So you are not yet in that transition period. Income becomes the very most important question, and it's going to happen next after age, because any withdrawal that you make is added to your taxable income on top of any earned income or any other taxable income sources for that year. So this is incredibly important.
Yeah, so let's say you grossed $50,000 at your day job, you took out $10,000 out of your RRSP, all of a sudden you're getting taxed at the end of the year for $60,000 of income.
That's exactly it. So tax on the next dollar, right? So if you've already earned income, and let's say you earned it at your job and you had normal payroll taxes coming off. Now you think, oh, I'm good, but then you make a big RSP withdrawal because you needed some cash, you needed it quick, there was no other place to go. What you may not realize is that there could potentially be a tax bill coming. And a lot of people go, no, there won't be a tax bill because they withheld some taxes at source. Okay, back up, Christine. What the heck are you talking about? When you make an RSP withdrawal and you are saying, I want to take money out early, the CRA says to you, I want to take a portion of the tax back right now at the time of withdrawal. I don't want to wait until you've filed your tax return. So if you're anywhere other than Quebec and you take out up to $5,000, they're going to say, we want 10% right off the bat. If you're anywhere other than Quebec and you take between 5,000 and 15, they are going to say, give us 20%. And again, anywhere other than Quebec, over 15,000, and that's all amounts. So it could be in the six figures, but any amount over $15,000, it's a flat 30%. So when does this become an issue? If your total tax rate, so your marginal tax rate, the rate that you're going to have to pay on this extra income is going to be more than the withholding tax, you could still owe money on this amount that's come out. And that's when people can get some really, really, really unhappy surprises. So if you have a professional that is making six figures, that has maybe hit a hard time, or there's been a debt issue or something broke down and they just need to fix it, and for whatever reason, the credit cards are maxed, they're not in a good place financially right now, they look to the RSP, they take it out, but they're already, depends on the province, of course, but they're already paying at a higher tax rate. Not only will that 30%, if it's over 15,000, be automatically applied, they could still, when they file their next tax return, be on the hook for a little extra.
Yeah, this is all the fun with taxes and withholding rates and marginal tax rates, and then where you kind of sit into it, where, yeah, some people at the end of the year could realize that the withholding tax that was taken off wasn't enough to satisfy the CRA, but there could be the same thing the other way around, where some people may get a little bit of a bonus because more money was taken off than needed to be.
Yeah, and this is why we ask if you're working or not, right? Because if you're not working, then this could be a great time to take money out of your RSP. Really, the only thing that you're going to use is the original RSP contribution room, right? If you take the money out, you have to earn back future RSP contribution room by working. You don't automatically get it like you do with a TFSA. But in that scenario where you're going to be starting out in the lowest tax bracket, and again, depending on your province, this could be a big advantage or a good time, again, depending on the dollar amount that you want to take, because just keep in mind, if the dollar amount is large enough, you can move through a few tax brackets depending on where you live. So all of these things that you didn't want to think about when you're just saying, hey, get me some money quick. And you know what? That brings me to another one of my favorites where people are like, hey, I'm in debt. I've got this credit card. It's at 18%. It's terrible. I hate it so much. Shouldn't I just take some money right now out of my RSP, pay this thing off, start clean? What do you think I'm going to say, Cam?
Use a TFSA instead?
That's a great answer. That is so much cleaner. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, if you look at the way the tax brackets are set up, and that, of course, is going to depend on the province that you live in, plus federal, of course, it actually could be more in tax than the interest rate that you're paying. And of course, that'll depend on the size of your debt. It'll depend how frequently it's compounding. It'll depend on your total interest costs. There's going to be a lot of factors to look at there, but I don't think that it should be a gut reflex to just grab money out of your RSP. So I think that that's something that should be carefully considered with a financial planner and should be looked at as a last resort. And my last question was, did you collect any income-tested benefits this year? Now, this question is incredibly important because if you did, adding to your taxable income can jeopardize your ability to qualify for income-tested benefits the following year. So please, if you rely on that as a subsidization, as a way of enhancing your income, think twice, talk to your financial planner, talk to your banker, your institution, whoever it may be, just to get that little check. Is what I'm going to take out going to hurt my ability to qualify for this benefit in the future? And they can see what the upper end of the limit is of income that you can have, and they can tell you how much you could withdraw without getting in the danger zone there.
Yeah, and don't forget that the federal and provincial programs don't always play nice with each other when it comes to these income-tested benefits. So make sure if you do take an RRSP withdrawal, you don't throw yourself over the limit, because you could be okay on one, but you could be in trouble with another. I know, what was it, like a couple of years ago, was that whole kerfuffle in Nova Scotia when the feds raised the disability tax credit, and then it pushed a lot of people in Nova Scotia out of their own provincial program. So yeah, so make sure you're clear on the federal and the provincial side of any income tested benefits that you could be claiming currently.
That's a really, really good point. And I guess the last thing that I'll say is, if you are pre-retirement and you're in the highest earnings level that you're ever going to be in, again, this is kind of the danger zone if you're looking at an RRSP withdrawal, because if you're in your peak earning years, you're going to be in the highest tax bracket that you'll potentially have during your lifetime, right? So again, not a good time to be stacking income on top of the high level of income that you're already earning. So we always caution people, if there's any other way, any other sources other than the RSP, plus you don't want to give up on the compounding that is happening in the plan for you right now. If you take the money out and you're not yet retired, it's kind of eating tomorrow's lunch, right? It's this idea that that money is now not going to be growing for you to help you out in the future, to help future you pay for the groceries and the bills and the surprises that are all going to come your way down the road. So that's how we saw taking withdrawals from RSPs. A little bit different depending on what stage of life you're in, but still helpful to understand what an RSP can become in its final form and what happens when you start taking money early. If you're looking to talk to a professional and are in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, or the Yukon, feel free to find us at Braun Financial, braunfinancial.com. These are conversations that we love to have. We have them every day. And just to prevent any unnecessary, untimely, and not tax-happy surprises. Help you sleep well at night, help you have a good night's rest, which is something that I think we all need right now. And until next time, take care.
And all the best.